So for this video, we are going to go to chapter 2. I know everyone is super excited, right? All right, here we are, chapter 2. So exciting, so exciting. So what is chapter 2? Chapter 2 talks about confidence, ethics, and everyone's favorite, plagiarism. Oh, and we have a cat now. Yes, she wants to be in the video. I do not encourage this when you guys are recording your speeches. For those of you that have to record, let's not have cats in the video. But, well, they rule my house. So here we go. Let's move on to chapter 2. So public speaking anxiety. In chapter 1, I did talk a little bit about that already. So it's commonly known as communication apprehension. It can be situational, topical, or both. So what does that mean? So situational. Maybe you're really good at talking to super big crowds, but not smaller crowds. I had a student once who had given a lot of speeches to large groups, 100+ people. It's totally fine. Had no issues whatsoever with that. But when it came down to being in the classroom, he kind of freaked out. And he said that was because there were so few people that he felt like everyone was watching him. And not only that, he was so much closer to them. Yeah, she's behind me now. He was so much closer to them, he could see their eyes, and it made him uncomfortable. It could also be maybe you're really good at talking to kids, but not adults. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're really great at talking to adults, but you're not so great at talking to kids. So situational, just what it sounds like. It has something to do with the situation that you're in. Now, topical. So that's your topic. Maybe you're really good at talking about, those of you that are military, former military, maybe you're really good at talking about what your job was in the military. But if you have to talk about something else, now you're freaked out. So it could be that, or it could be a little bit of both. Maybe you don't like talking about your job. So now you have to talk about what your job was, and you have to talk to a bunch of high schoolers, and you're not good at either. So that makes you super, super nervous. In chapter 1, I told you guys it is not uncommon. It absolutely is not uncommon. Here's the last 2 things, and I really want you to take away from this particular slide. You may think that everybody sees how nervous you are, but a lot of times they don't. You just think we do. You think we see that you're super nervous because you're super nervous. So now you're like, oh, everybody knows. Everyone knows I'm so nervous. A lot of times we have no clue that you're as nervous as you are, or you think we see. We don't. And it can be overcome. I promise you, it really, truly can for those of you that do get freaked out. It absolutely can be overcome. And now I'm probably about to sneeze because, well, my cat was just in my face. Forgive me. I know, super awkward, right? But hey, I don't generally go back and re-record these. What you get or what you see is what you get. Those of you that will see me in class, you're going to find out. This is really who I am. So I'm not changing it. Oh, look, what can you do? First of all is rehearse. Practice, 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 practice. That really, truly is the key here. If you know what you're talking about, if you feel confident, if you've gone over it numerous times, you're going to do much better, but you're also not going to feel as nervous. You're not going to be as freaked out when you get up there to talk. And this is not just for this class, because please remember, you're not taking this class just for a grade. My hope is that at the end of it, you have actually learned a little something from this class. So you're going to want to rehearse. You're going to want to practice, practice, practice. You know, if you were ever on a sports team, if you ever danced, if you were ever a cheerleader, anything like that, played an instrument, you have to practice to get good at it. The same goes for public speaking. The same goes for your speeches. You have to practice if you want to be good at them. Then it talks about visualize success. Some people are better at visualizing success than others. I'm not necessarily a visualize type person. Like I tried meditating once, even bought a book. It told me to visualize myself as a tree. All my negative thoughts and energy flowed out of me and out my feet, which were the roots, into the ground. And the only thing I could think when I did that was, ooh, that would hurt to have roots come out of your feet. So I'm not good at that. If you're a good visualizer, then visualize yourself being successful. Plan and prepare. This goes back to that whole practicing thing. Get good information. Make sure you know what you're going to talk about. Make sure you've done really good research. This is all going to help. And then it talks about understanding why you're anxious. It could be a number of reasons. One of the biggest reasons that people do get anxious is because as humans, we want to be accepted. Whether you want to admit it or not, we do. We want to be accepted. We want our peers and the people around us to accept us and to think that we're doing a good job at things. So when you start thinking, oh, they're not going to like me, or they're not going to like what I talk about, this is going to lead to some of that being anxious. And I promise you guys, we all get that way. Those of you, if you're watching this before you meet me in class, I get nervous the first day of class, oh, what if they don't like me? We all do it. It is human nature. It is normal. It is natural. And then finally, it talks about addressing some of those factors before we present. If you remember from the first lecture, I had kind of talked about the nonverbal, and that can also include the way that we're dressed. So think about that. If you're the kind of person who feels more confident when you're super dressed up, then dress up by all means. You do have to at least dress up a little bit for your speeches. Just saying, it's in the guidelines, it's in those little rules. But also dress comfortably. If you're not comfortable wearing dresses or skirts, then don't wear slacks. I'm not a dress kind of gal. I don't wear a lot of dresses. I wear jeans, I wear slacks. That's how I'm comfortable. Notes. Have notes. And we're going to talk more about that in, chapter 6. I talk about that in chapter 6. That one's already recorded. But so make sure you have your notes. Make sure you have your note cards. And then research. And research well. Don't wing it, especially when we're talking about presenting to a group of people. Don't just wing it. Get some research. Make sure you do your research. And then again, we're ending with rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. Practice, practice, practice. That is going to be the biggest key to your success and to overcoming your speech anxiety, is to practice. And y'all, let me just say, when I'm telling you to practice, I'm not meaning sit there on your couch thinking your speech in your head. No, I mean get up and do it. Record yourself practicing and watch it. Give your speech in the mirror. If you have some of those brutally honest friends, if you're the brutally honest friend, well, find another one. But if you have those brutally honest friends, give that speech to those brutally honest friends, because I promise you, well, brutally honest, they're going to tell you exactly what they think. But practice, practice, practice. Now, let's talk a little bit about ethics. So what are ethics? So ethics, those are your principles that we use for the basis of our actions and judgments, right? Morality, that is your beliefs about right and wrong. So basically, your ethics are going to lead to your morals. It's the way we look at things. There are certain things that most of us agree are wrong. Murder, wrong. Hopefully, kicking puppies, wrong. But there are other things that people may not think are wrong. I may think one thing is wrong, and you may think that it's not wrong. These are some of the things that you have to think about when you're giving these speeches. You don't want to automatically assume that just because you think something is wrong, everyone else in the world does. So what are a few rules for those ethical speakers? They're right here in front of you. There's no reason for me to read over every single one of them. You guys can see them, But I do want you to think about them when you are doing your research, when you are coming up with your topics. Think about these things. Can you avoid hate speech and bigotry? If you can't avoid it, don't talk about it. Don't use it. But the biggest one here is going to be just be honest and never make stuff up, right? You know, if you want to talk about why everyone should paint their bedroom walls lime green because your favorite color is lime green, don't make up studies about how lime green walls are the greatest color for sleeping. So just always be honest. These are some of the things that professional communicators are. And I know you're all like, but I'm not a professional communicator, Melissa. I'm just a student. For this class, we're going to pretend like you are all professional communicators. So what are professional communicators? They're credible. Now they can be credible because they came into it with everyone thinking that they're credible, or it can be earned. And how is it earned? Through things like telling people during my research I found, but also being honest. People can tell when we're lying. So professional communicators are always credible, and they're known for their integrity, and they're also civil. How many professional communicators can you think of that are not civil, that you actually want to listen to? Maybe a few, but probably not really many. You need to always be civil, because the very last sentence is, keep in mind that true communication comes when there are open minds and mutual trust. I don't know how many of you have ever listened to somebody, you may not have known anything about them, and as you're going on, you're like, oh, what? This person is a jerk. I don't want to hear anything they have to say, or they don't have an open mind. You don't feel like that's someone you can trust, and you don't feel like that's someone you can listen to, or you even want to listen to. I know some of these are kind of weird because now we're going into academic integrity. And once again, I am really not going to read all of this to you guys. I wouldn't read it all to you if we were sitting in the classroom. And as difficult as it is, because clearly I'm not getting feedback from my audience, my laptop is just sitting here with a little light staring at me and judging me in a really negative way, I feel. So I'm trying to do these very similar to how I would in the classroom, which is why if I sneeze, if I make mistakes, I'm not changing it. I'm just rolling with it, because guess what? If I have to sneeze in the classroom, I have to sneeze in the classroom, and I can't be like, oh, rewind, we're going to go back and pretend like this never happened. So anyway, I am not going to read you every single slide. You guys can read them. Of course, they're all still on D2L also. We're going to touch on some of the key things here, especially with the academic integrity. Don't cheat. Be honest. Don't commit plagiarism. Like, don't plagiarize stuff. Again, just be honest and don't cheat. This is super simple. You're all grown-ups. You all know how to be honest. So just be honest. These next several slides are going to be examples of plagiarism. I do kind of want you to look over them, because some of them you may not even realize you're committing plagiarism. When in doubt, cite your source. I don't really think anyone is ever going to get mad at you because you cited a source. And if they do, well, they probably shouldn't, but I definitely won't. So again, a few more, some more. In section 2, it says sources cited but still plagiarized. You really do want to pay attention to some of these. And the too perfect paraphrase. The too perfect paraphrase, that is the one that really does tend to get people. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You know, it's poorly cited source. The writer properly cites that source, but neglects to put quotation marks for something that has been cited word for word. So please do remember, if you're citing something word for word, you have to have those exclamation points. You can't just say, according to so-and-so. You have to put those exclamation points because we need to know exactly where it starts and stops. And that's the only way to do that. That's a big one that does get people, especially in college. You forget to put those quotation marks. Let's see. And then here we go. How to avoid plagiarism. Again, cite your sources. You're going to hear me say cite your sources over and over and over. This very first one says you have to cite them both aloud and in your paper. And you have to have a works cited page. So here's the thing. When you are citing your source, when we get to the lecture over your outlines, you're going to see how you cite your sources. You're going to see where you cite your sources. But you have to do it during your speech also. This is something that can really hurt your grade. I'm not a super stickler about a whole lot of things, but I really am when it comes to sources, because y'all, in the future, when you get into some of these other classes, especially some of these higher up classes, if you don't cite your source, it doesn't matter if it was an accident or on purpose, it can cause you to get a 0, or in some cases worse, it could actually get you turned in for academic dishonesty, and we don't want any of that. So this is somewhere that I am super, super picky, and I really am a stickler. I'm not going to necessarily be a stickler for commas and things like that. You know, I'm not nitpicking you. I'm not looking for comma splices, things like that. I'm not. But I am looking for your sources and to make sure they are cited properly. When you give your speech, you must say the source out loud. You lose points if you don't, and this can really hurt a speech grade. Not citing your sources can take what would otherwise be an A speech down to a C or a D. So you really want to make sure you are diligent when it comes to that. Keep track of your research. Don't forget anything. Make sure you're careful about those quotation marks. Don't forget them. And again, take responsibility for your work. But the big thing right here, be honest. Just make sure you are being honest with everything. And that was that. So we shall stop sharing that screen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that was chapter 2. And I will be back with chapter 3. I know you guys are so excited. Hopefully these aren't terrible, but again, it just kind of is what it is. I feel like it's a little bit better than telling you guys just to go look at the PowerPoints and read the book and not give you anything. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I will see you again for chapter 3. And yeah, this is Lucy. She does not like for me to work. She thinks when I'm home, it's Lucy time. But anyway, chapter 3. See you guys later.